4, 3, 2, 1. Kids next door. Goodbye. The rest of Sector V watched with tears in their eyes as Nigel quickly entered the rocket ship and closed the door. Then the countdown, then the liftoff, and with that, Nigel was gone. Their leader, their best friend, was gone forever. Right after the ship took to the sky, the 4 remaining members of Sector V found themselves slowly walking back to the treehouse, and not a single one of them had dry eyes. Hoagie and Kooky had been crying for so long that they got hiccups. Abigail hugged them both with tears streaming down her own face. However, it seemed that Wally was struggling to keep himself from collapsing at that point. Suddenly, he made a mad dash for the treehouse nearby, causing the others to jump and run after him. "Number 4, wait for us!" Hoagie said as they all ran after him, but Wally had already went inside by the time they had gotten to the treehouse. As soon as Wally made it to his room, he got into a fetal position against the boxing ring in the center. After making sure he was alone, he finally let go of his deeply suppressed emotions. However, his friends nearby soon heard him sobbing and quickly rushed in the direction of the pitiful sound. "Wally?" Number 3 sadly frowned as they went in to comfort him. Wally instantly turned around, trying to wipe his tears away. I'm not crying," Wally choked out, still sniffling and wiping his eyes, before Hoagie and Kooky sat there by his side. "I'm sorry, guys. I just miss him so much already. Why did they have to choose him and leave us to suffer like this?" Wally shouted, collapsing into a crying mess all over again, as Hoagie and Kooky joined in shortly, all tearfully hugging one another. Abigail tried to console them once more by sitting beside them and spoke. Now, guys. I know it's a hard time right now. We all love Nigel, but we're all gonna get through this. At least we're gonna try to," she said, wiping a few tears of her own. Hoagie sniffed again. I guess you're right, number 5. This time, he's not ever coming back," Kooky said in between sobs. "I know, but the best we can do is hope that he'll be alright up there," number 5 sighed. Though she took Wally's words into consideration, she did wonder for herself, where did this whole Galactic Kid Next Door come from? Nigel looked out of the window out of the rocket ship, watching sadly as planet Earth slowly faded further and further in the distance, until it was nowhere to be seen. He could only imagine the unbearable amount of pain his friends were feeling back on Earth. He almost felt that he had betrayed them in some way, and he felt a lump in his throat. All at once he heard an electronic voice coming from the shuttle he was in. "Reaching Galactic Mothership in T-minus 20 seconds. Nigel's time was drawing near as his heart pounded in his chest. What was this whole experience going to be like? What were his teammates going to be like? Do they have some kind of treehouse like back on Earth? So many questions and thought raced through his 10-year-old mind as he noticed the stars in the sky have gone away. Then a small thud from below. The shuttle had landed onto the mothership. "Welcome, number 1. Number Infinity greeted as the door opened and Nigel slowly got out of the shuttle. "I see you're ready to see the interior of our mothership, number 1. Number 74.239 walked out from behind number Infinity. "Follow us." And so, the 3 walked into the long tunnel with the small, brightly colored lights in the ceilings, until they reached one of the most enormous rooms they had ever seen in this life. The main lobby of the mothership had a metal floor with a clear glass dome overhead, and the walls were laced with doors and blinking white signs that were weird alien-like writing plastered on them. The whole site was really strange, but somewhat exciting. So, the first room was the water supply, 74.239 said, opening the first door and revealing a giant container of water that rather resembled a swimming pool. Sure, it may look like an indoor swimming pool, but nonetheless, it's a water supply. The door closed as they moved on to a door that was a little smaller, almost looked like the door to a pantry. It opened, revealing bunches upon bunches of what appeared to be cereal boxes and strange-looking produce inside. Here we have what's called the breakfast collection. It's basically food for our operatives here on the Galactic Mothership, 74.239 said as he waved his hand out of most of the other doors. All the other rooms are environment pods. For example, there's the Arctic pod, and then the desert and the tropical pods. Heck, there's even an ocean pod. You name it, they're all for different operatives with different, conditions, he said, almost slightly nervous. Infinity in 74.239 then led Nigel to one final door with the big 1 etched into it. I bet you can tell which room this one is for, 74.239 said, chuckling a bit to himself as the door opened up. Inside was a master bedroom, only more advanced to say the least. The bed was in a lighted booth attached with a setup and a rack of hangers for clothes, and an indoor pool far from the left of the bed. On the opposite wall was a large flat-screen television. Needless to say, it was a room for a king. Here's your personal quarters. You'll stay here for a while until recruiting starts in approximately 9 hours, Number Infinity said, gesturing Nigel to go in and check out the room. Nigel was amazed. This was extremely different from the treehouse. Now, any questions, number 1? Infinity asked. Only one. Where will the recruiting be held? That will be in the conference room, which we will assist you in about 9 hours. Enjoy your stay. 74.239 concluded and closed the door quickly. Then he and Number Infinity walked back down the hallway where they had came from. I sure hope number 1 will be able to help us out with you-know-what, 74.239 said to Number Infinity, who looked at him and sighed. Let's just hope he wasn't a huge pain like that other boy. 274? Oh, don't worry. We will get our vengeance on the adults, even if that means plucking more than 100 operatives off in the face of the earth until we find one that will actually listen. 74.239 sneered as the two passed a prison cage. Oh, Chad, why did they take you away from me? Stacy bawled as she buried her face into Carla's shoulder. Cree simply rubbed Stacy's back in an attempt to calm the distressed middle schooler. It's gonna be all right, Stacy, Carla softly cooed. All right? We had so many plans for the future together, but no! Stacy shouted through her tears. There, Stacy. Maybe he's just having more fun wherever he went. Who knows? Cree said, trying to reassure her friend. But I love him so much. I'm never gonna see him again. Speaking of never seeing folks again, I done overheard that Nigel Unafella was taken away. Carla stuttered. Upon hearing this news, Stacy quickly wiped her tears and Cree's eyes widened a bit. You mean number 1 of those KN dorks? Cree asked, as she and Stacy looked at one another. Then they burst out laughing in a rather sinister way. Sounds like a plus to us, Stacy said, immediately cheered up. Cree giggled. Definitely. Without their bratty behavior, we can easily get Sector V under our boots. Stacy and Cree high-fived. Well, yeah, but that ain't the point that I'm trying to make. Whatevs, victory's totally ours this time, Cree said, walking out the door with the 2 others following behind her. The chatter was plentiful down the Lime Ricky Soda Bar, as the kids all heard about Nigel's absence last night. Some were worried, some were wishing him well. Well, in one of the booths, none other than Rachel McKenzel and Fanny Fulbright were drinking their minds away. Rachel, however, was an absolute emotional mess. Oh, Fanny, what's a girl to do? She wept noisily. Nigel's gone. The only person that I had was gone, I tell ya. Gone. I didn't even get to tell him goodbye. She took another tearful swig from her soda bottle. What would you want with some boy anyway? Fanny muttered under an Irish accent, who was quite drunk on soft drinks. One last lad here. She began chuckling. Rachel cleared her throat, and she gave her teammate the glare. You better watch it, 86, or there's going to be one less operative in the kids next door, Rachel irritatedly mumbled. So sorry to hear that, 362, Fanny nervously said, to which Rachel simply rolled her eyes. Sector V was sitting at a table, glancing at Rachel and Fanny. Wally rolled his eyes, while the other 3 gave a look of pity. Poor number 362. She's really taking it hard over there, Abigail frowned. Pretty sure we've all had some point since he took off, Hoagie said, taking a swig from his mug of root beer. They looked at Wally, who was also drowning his sorrows in root beer. Nigel, I'm so lonely without you. I miss you a lot. Please come home, please. He then broke down into tears once again. This in turn caused Kooky to go over to him and give him a hug. "I'm gonna take him to the restrooms for a few minutes. I'll be right back," she said, helping him out of the room. Things were good with Hoagie and Abigail by themselves for a few minutes, until they got a glimpse of a group of kids looking at them in a strange way. Then they looked back at one another. I wonder when those two will be back," Abigail muttered, while her train of thought was shortly interrupted by a boy's voice. "Pardon, milady?" "Milady?" Hoagie and Abigail spun around to face a group of 4 kids, which appeared to be smirking. One of them stepped up to Abigail and asked, "Is this dude giving you problems?" No. What were you talking about?" Abigail said, confused. "Well, can you explain to me why you're with Mr. Lard here?" the boy snidely questioned. This immediately upset Abigail. "Say what?" she exclaimed. "You just seem too cool to be hanging out with some miniature planet and not with a boy your size," the boy continued, only for Abigail to backhand him across the face. "I know you're not trash-talking him, fool, and if you don't cut it out, number 5's gonna give you a planet-sized butt-whooping," she said as the boy gulped and backed away quickly. "Yeah, you better back off," Abigail huffed before turning back to Hoagie, who was on the verge of tears. She quickly hugged him and began leading him out of the place. "Come on, number 2. We're not going to give these fools the pleasure of seeing you in tears." She then turned her head towards the restroom and called to the other 2, "Kooky, Wally, we're leaving." Kooky and Wally came out from where they were standing and went off. One more operative gone from the face of the earth. A grim-faced Maurice Payton quickly walked out of the high school gymnasium over a set of bleachers. "Time to set a plan to get my 2 comrades back." Maurice went back behind the bleachers, pressed his 2 fingers in 2 holes in the wall and whispered, "Teen next door rules." A small crawl-space-sized door opened up and Maurice quickly crawled through, sliding down a white chute in the process until he entered what was the teens next door hangout base. Sitting at the table were 3 other teenagers, and Frankie, Taco, and Maurice Sunside. They all looked at Maurice with smirks. "Maurice, we've been waiting for you, so any more information about their latest chosen one?" Maurice said with a thick British accent. "Number 1 of the kids next door, more specifically leader of Sector V, they took him about a day or so after taking number 274, Maurice explained. "What have they planned for them?" Annie asked with a German accent. "They said they want to rid the earth of all adults, but I have my suspicions for that." "What suspicions?" Takeo, in his Japanese accent, questioned with a hint of worry. Maurice paused for a couple of moments. "I'm afraid that they might want to use him to annihilate more than just the adult population." Hearing this, the others' eyes widened a little as they looked on their eyes widened a little as they looked at one another. "Number 274 is currently being held in captivity somewhere on the mothership. I assume he's disobeyed orders or something," Maurice continued, looking at some sort of tracking device in his hands. "Either way, we need to find some way to retrieve those 2 and bring them back to our planet. Our possible doom awaits us in the future, but it won't be easy." "No kidding. They probably have technology massively advanced compared to what we have here," Marie added in the conversation. "They must have some bloody good security systems." "Exactly," Maurice thought. 2x4 and 8x8 technology are immensely contrast, intelligent-wise especially. "Speaking of technology, perhaps we can create something that would possibly help destroy or jeopardize the security levels, or cut the power," Annie brightly suggested. "Then we use a tracking device to find their prisoners. That way, it'll be easier to free Iki-san and Chad," Tokyo added. You guys could be getting somewhere with these ideas. I believe this plan is starting to go together," Maurice smirked. "But they could have brainwashed him by now," he said to himself. "Don't worry, number 9. We're the teens next door. We always find a way to turn things around. Undercover," Marie assured Maurice, who smiled. "You're right, number 104, he replied. "We may not know for sure what the Galactic Kids Next Door plans truly are, but one thing we know for sure, they're plotting something deadly, and we need to stop them." "Teens next door rule!" they all exclaimed, before quietly crawling back up the tunnel. After peering out the small door and making sure no one was in sight, they quickly vacated the scene and went straight back home. in fear and surprise as your eyes widen. Your mouth goes dry with each battered breath. You try to scream, your mind begs to leave. Glued to your computer screen, the killers they slash, the tapes burn and crash. The cartridge you bought will be your final haunt. The rituals of hate will seal your fate. The tears you shed will be from the fear-gripping horror-driven nightmarish gore-filled, terrorizing, hateful, burning, violent, rage-inducing, knife-slashing, blood-splattering, silent screams. Only time will tell if you will escape this online hell. Your horror-filled obsessions will come with its own regressions. Your pathetic screams will not be heeded in any way, because your nightmares will come at any day.